when these agencies get corrupted at the top and they create a culture of corruption. And we saw that with the FBI. We saw that in the CIA.
Their far-reaching tentacles have rooted so deeply throughout our society that I cannot even imagine how that could possibly be cleaned up.
I think CIA, the FBI, and elements of the NSA are out of control.
If the reform is done right of the intelligence agencies, I can see all the other countries following suit.
These agencies are facing a time of reckoning.
In 1,000 pieces.
Hi, everybody. It's Laura Eisenhower. I am joined by such a special guest. I'm just so thrilled to be spending time with her. Oh, man, Cathy O'Brien. So grateful that you're here. And we're just going to dive into so much today. And I love the timing of this, you know, right after this powerful conjunction. And it's just really just amazing. We're going to talk about 1,000 Pieces, the documentary, and I'll share, you know, a bit about her and as far as her bio is concerned. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. This is a wonderful opportunity, and yeah, this is a powerfully pivotal time in history, and it's such extreme transitional times that we're all living in, and what a wonderful opportunity to get to do an interview on it all with you, Laura. That's just wonderful.
Oh yeah, I mean, you launched me on a big part of my mission after I got in touch with your work, and I just spread the word far and wide. And then we got to meet in, I think, 2011 at the Free Your Mind conference, and we had a booth next to each other. Do you remember we gave each other a hug and your necklace got caught on my hair?
Yes, I remember very well. Yeah.
Oh, that was awesome. Well, just a few of my own words about Cathy. Cathy O'Brien, who has been a pioneering warrior on an extraordinary healing journey, has brought so much to the world. 30 years ago, some of the most shocking disclosures in regards to MK Ultra and the deep state and the abuses she endured. So, yeah, I'm just going to share a bit about you from your bio too, and just making sure I have all that here. So, Cathy O'Brien, born in 1957 in Muskegon, I hope I'm saying that right, Michigan?
Muskegon. Yeah, Muskegon, Michigan.
Okay. Is a nationally and internationally recognized U.S. government whistleblower on the subject of MK Ultra mind control and healing from it. In 1995, when the U.S. National Security Act was invoked on her testimony for U.S. Congressional Permanent Select Committees on Intelligence Oversight, it was released en masse through her book she wrote with Mark Phillips, Transformation of America. And I know he passed not long ago, and just totally holding that in our hearts. And it's so amazing that you are back speaking. And I know you were, you know, kind of stepping out of being public for a while since that happened. And that must have been really a lot to move on without him in the physical realm. But of course, those kind of connections are never, there's no separation ever, right?
Right. Love is forever. Love lives on forever. And I found the very best thing that I could do is honor him in every breath that I take, and, you know, stand tall, shoulders back, and move forward in life to be able to continue our life's purpose, because his life was interrupted and our purpose goes on. He knew that as people woke up to the reality of what's been going on in our world, that they would need the healing methods that I used after waking up from mind control, and how to learn to think free again. He knew all that. He's so amazing. His insight was so profound and powerful that if he were here, he certainly would be very vocal in being able to help people. So I'm using all the strength that he gave me, and the power that I have gained in healing, to be able to share that message and continue bringing truth to light at a time when censorship is so harsh, and truth is more important than ever, because it's truth that makes us free. And Mark knew all this was coming. He knew it when the elections were unrigged in 2016, and we the people actually put in a president that would represent us instead of a new world order agenda. It was a pivotal moment in history. It's been quite a transitional time ever since, as people wake up more and more to the reality of what has been going on ever since the Kennedy assassination, really.
Right, right.
But Mark knew that people would need healing information. So it's love for humanity, and it's love for Mark, and love is the most powerful force in the universe. So that is my motivation to keep speaking out. And I was quieter until the opportunity for 1,000 Pieces came along. That is the most powerful, important documentary at this time to help people understand what's really going on in our world and what we need to know in order to be able to effectively reestablish our constitutional values of freedom and justice for all, and to reclaim our personal sovereignty so that we can reclaim our national sovereignty. I guess just the most important piece, and I know that it's something that Mark would have been very pleased that I participated in. And I'm very honored to be part of the project with the people who have devoted so much to getting it out there, the other people involved in it. Amazing, every single one of them. So profound, and that the impact that this will have is going to reverberate for a long time to come.
It's absolutely the most powerful documentary I have ever seen, ever. And what you brought forward, what everybody brought forward, I mean, and the timing too. I mean, it just seemed like this powerful synchronicity, or just that flow of just synchronicity. It's just like all fell into place so beautifully, and it was incredible. So I was just going to read it just a little bit more, just to give people more of a sense of your background, and then dive into some questions about that and what you're seeing in the world today. Because as you talked about in the documentary, the mind control is on a vast scale, as far as, social engineering, things since Paperclip and Project Mockingbird. And yeah, we can, definitely dive into that. But just, anybody who's not familiar, I know many are. Cathy became a candidate for MK Ultra mind control due to a dissociative disorder developed from incest. As detailed in Trance, Cathy's pedophile father, Earl O'Brien, sold her into MK Ultra due to his illicit connections into a local Michigan mafia child pornography ring sanctioned by local politician Gerald Ford. As Ford's political career escalated to heading the infamous Warren Commission that reportedly investigated the Kennedy assassination, and to becoming president of the U.S., Cathy's victimization rose proportionately. Through systematic torture and well-documented NASA military mind control programming, Cathy was forced to do the unthinkable and participate in CIA black ops and White House Pentagon-level operations during the Reagan-Bush administration. And when you hear that, I mean, the path of recovery, I just, can't even imagine. And when you see the world that we're in today, I mean, are all these characters that, I mean, obviously Gerald Ford has passed on, but is it still just incredibly prevalent? Just all those different projects and operations?
Every bit of it, because when Mark rescued me in 1988, I came running out of a hell that no one even knew existed. And it was very difficult. People didn't understand what I had seen, what I had experienced. It's one thing that I experienced MK Ultra mind control and the systematic tortures and programming of that, but also what I witnessed and experienced on the inside of what's now, referred to as the deep state, the New World Order. It's not just Democrats, that's for sure, because it was Democrats and Republicans alike, both of them. I mean, George Bush is the one who said it's a New World Order, that he was ushering in. So this has been happening for my whole life, and I'm not young. That's a long time that this has been going on, and people just didn't see it. My owner in MK Ultra was U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd, and Senator Byrd always used to say that good people don't think to look for this kind of criminal activity. And they just don't think to look for it. Well, now at this moment in time, everybody is seeing it, whether they want to or not. It's as though they bury their head in the sand of an hourglass and the hourglass flipped, and it's like all of a sudden they're having to see whether they want to or not. And people are seeing it for the first time. But human trafficking has been around forever. The injustice, the horrible injustice, like you were saying, my father received immunity from prosecution. That was back in the early 60s. They were already covering up for pedophilia, for the whole human trafficking operation, for MK Ultra mind control, all under national security. So as we're seeing our justice system so corrupted, the roots of it go back so long that it's frustrating to me that my voice was censored under national security. It was frustrating to me that the media already had their censorship in place so long ago and kept my voice quiet all these years. I've never stopped hollering as loud as I can. I've never stopped blowing that whistle as loud as I can. But sometimes it just felt like a dog whistle, like very few people were hearing it because they didn't want to believe that kind of criminal activity existed. Well, now here we are, we're sitting right on the brink of free thought. And ultimately, that's exactly what it's coming down to: mind control in a slave society, or reclaiming our personal sovereignty and our national sovereignty so that we can evolve forward with life's purpose and the way that life is meant to be, with the freedoms and the joys and the pleasures, the ability to communicate with each other so freely and lovingly and enjoy life instead of living this horrible fear and terror that people are in now. Now more than ever, I think the information on mind control is pertinent, and yet I can see so clearly that if only people could have heard me when I came running out of that hell, if only I'd have had that voice, then maybe we wouldn't be on this precipice. Maybe it wouldn't have had to get this bad. Maybe, there wouldn't have been so many children trafficked. Maybe the human traffickers wouldn't have gotten away with it for so long. And they're not just raping children and destroying their minds and their lives, but they're doing more horrible things in harvesting our children as well that is beyond human comprehension. All that need not have been if only truth could have been known. So in that regard, I wish that I had had a voice that could have been heard. And yet at the same time, Mark and I were speaking out globally. We spoke before huge groups of people that were from even the United Nations and the World Bank, who were looking, because they saw the criminal activity going on and they wanted to find a way out. Okay, where can we invest, or what can we do outside of the perimeters of this new world order? So, we spoke to crowds of thousands, with the big screen behind us and everything else, but still that was not enough to wake people up and avoid this point that we're at. But since we're at this point, it's still not too late if we just all wake each other up in time and take a stand, pull off our masks that are muffling our voices, and communicate with each other again now, right now, before it's too late. 1,000 Pieces documentary went back in time to where everything I knew about the Kennedy assassination, they went back on that and showed how this new world order coup began sinking their roots, because they took a lot of time to plant their roots. This didn't happen overnight, obviously, but that's what the Kennedy assassination was about. He was going to expose it. He was at this moment in time, and instead we lost President Kennedy, and he was assassinated, and with him went the truth and the reality and the pivot point that could have been and should have been then. And 1,000 Pieces documentary picks it all up and lays it out so comprehensively so that people can see that this has been going on for a long time. Even though the information may be brand new to them, it doesn't mean that this hasn't been going on for generations now. And it's time we wake up and do something about it. We have to take back our sovereignty now. We have to realize what's been going on for our children's sake, because what's being done to our children on so many levels is it's going to alter the whole evolution of humanity and our whole spiritual purpose if we don't do something now. In that regard, this is a spiritual battle, and it's one that we will win, because love, by its very nature, is the most powerful force in the universe, and truth always prevails. Love always wins. It's the nature of things. But wow, we better gather it up and do something with it now, because this is our last chance. This is our opportunity right here, right now, and we got to do something about it. Knowledge is our defense against mind control, and that knowledge is going to be key to taking back our sovereignty.
Oh, absolutely. And the Mockingbird media has done such a great job at making it, am I muted? Making it like a right or left thing. So that people think it's political or think it's conspiracy theory.
Yeah, really.
Or it's just, you're just going after that candidate or that's this person for political reasons. And that's why it's like, you've been the most important voice and one that it's crazy. It's been not, like you said, so much more could have been done if it was listened to and if it rippled out, further. And I mean, there is that censorship, right? And the censorship's getting even worse, but it's crazy. I mean, so the light forces of love, I mean, in your healing process, I mean, what's your healing process been like, to show people that greater power is enough to begin to break down all this, kind of program?
That's why it was so important to be able to gather my strength of spirit and move forward in light of love after Mark's passing and everything, because we're still dealing with the same small handful of criminals. It's the same ones in place. Like when I was a little girl and first being thrust into MK Ultra, the governor of Michigan at that time was George Romney. That's Mitt Romney's father. He was one of the most MK Ultra mind controlling people on this planet in so many ways, because he is the first who really brought it into the school system and the school systems in Michigan while I was growing up. That was even before Global Ed, Common Core, went in 1984 through Bill Bennett and Lamar Alexander. But there was George Romney bringing it in back then, very deliberately and very strategically. It was a plan, and it was taking what the Catholics had learned about the effects of trauma on the human mind, like from back with the Spanish Inquisitions and all like that, and putting it into a more powerful form of mind control with technology, rolling it in with what the Nazi and fascist scientists brought in through Project Paperclip that they brought into the U.S. The CIA, by everything that I have ever known, it's just been an extension of Project Paperclip, really, in 1947. And when the National Security Act went in and everything, it was just started covering up exactly what was going on. But it's an undermining of the very fiber of humanity that goes so much deeper than politics. And I think that, going back on 1,000 Pieces again, I think that is one of the most amazing things about that opportunity in this project, this amazing documentary, as it is like, they talk about the 5D chess game this day, but it's like the 5D documentary. It's got so many dimensions to it that show how much more is going on in our world today than just politics, and how important it is that each and every one of us wake up. No one can wake up for us. We all have to wake up, face the reality of what's been going on, how we've been conditioned into compliance, and wake up and take back personal sovereignty. Free thought is so sacred. And I know from experience that without free thought, there's no free will. There's no soul expression. There's no personal choice to live in harmony with life's purpose. There's no ability to stand for anything that you believe in. There's no ability to stand against pedophilia. There's no ability to stand against child abusers. There's no capacity to just to live your own life in the way that life intends for it to be. There's no ability to be, that life has such a beautiful synchronistic flow. There is such a harmony. When you're in that flow and everything's unfolding and everything's being just the way that it needs to be. And that is something that I cherish every moment of every day, to be free to live in now that I can think free. Because without free thought, there's no choice to be able to even recognize that or be in any kind of harmony with it. So free thought is something that it amazed me when I woke up from the strategic MK Ultra mind control programming that I endured, to find how people take their free thought for granted. It's like they don't realize the magnitude of the importance of their consciousness and the power that they have within them, live in the love they are. That's such crucial aspect of humanity. And that's why this is so much more than politics. And yet politics has been the pivot point of it all, because they took over governments, this small handful of criminals that were carrying on what Adolf Hitler first termed the New World Order. That's what was being implemented in Nazi Germany. And the Catholic Church was directly involved back then, or a faction of it. Not everybody. There's good and bad in everything. So I don't mean to sound like I'm saying all that's bad, because there's good and bad in everything. But the criminal faction of the Catholic Church was very much involved in it, even to the point where we finally saw a little crack in their armor with the Catholic child abuse scandal that happened a few years back, when all those children, it was found that all those children were being trafficked, and the pedophilia within the Catholic Church was being covered up so extensively. And the priests were just being moved from one church to the other rather than prosecuted. Cardinal Law was actively involved in MK Ultra mind control. And that was part of that faction that was tied in with Nazi Germany that came over with Project Paperclip. So we're collecting all this dark, horrible, hateful, controlling information just so a handful of big guys can be in control of all the people, so that they can have all the money while we do all the work. It's just, I don't get their mentality. I don't get the way they think. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
I hear you. It doesn't make any sense at all. I was actually going to ask you about that. Like, how can one wrap their head around this and make sense out of it? It's so cut off from God's source, and it's just vampiric. It's just parasitic. And I know there's a larger galactic history, and I don't know, if we should, get into that. But what's crazy is this mockingbird thing, or the indoctrination in the school systems, colleges, and universities that make a person so shut down that they literally can see evidence and proof that is outstanding proof, and look at Biden actually say with his own mouth that they have the most advanced voter fraud system, and just be like, oh, yeah, nothing to see here. Oh, all this stuff. It's like, what is that? Are they possessed by the electronics, or is this just indoctrination? Or are they just like, and how would somebody like that heal from it? I mean, like you said, it's up to each person to wake up, but I don't want to ask too many questions in one, but let's just start with that part of it. Just that all the evidence is there. They could literally witness it with their eyes and say, oh, that didn't happen. And these are our everyday people in society that where's their heart and soul? And I know
these perpetrators are so blatant. Mark always said arrogance was going to be their downfall. And I hear symbolism will be their downfall, and that too. Let's get to the downfall part and get these people out of power, because they're good people. Good people just don't think that way, but they also don't think like we do. They do not understand the strength of the human spirit, which is why they want to subdue it and control it. If they can control, they can't possess the spirit. They never touched my spirit. They couldn't taint my spirit. They couldn't, but they did stop me from being able to express it for all those years under MK Ultra mind control through the systematic abuse. And the kind of conditioning that I experienced was so systematic and extreme that I think it is probably something that people could look at and start to understand how their own minds have been systematically broken down to be compliant and accept and just sit back and accept what's happening. They say, okay, close your business, no more livelihood. You can't do that anymore. You can't interact with people 6 feet away, 6 feet under. You know, it's a subliminal in people's mind. You have to stay 6 feet. Everything is sixes these days, you know, even our $600, you know, but everything's sixes because they're just so blatant about it. And yet still people aren't really seeing it. Look at even in Biden's, campaign sign, he had the 3 Chinese, the socialism bars, the 3 bars, red bars. And I mean, anybody can look that up and research it and go, oh yeah, oh, I see now, you know, but it's a little slow there. But as they're starting to see more and more and more, and they keep seeing it right in front of them, they will begin to wake up, but they need to understand what mind control is and what happened to them, because otherwise, if they don't understand, like I said, knowledge is our defense against mind control. When you understand how our brains work, then we can protect our brains from being manipulated. But we need to understand that information was suppressed out of mental health so that people wouldn't have that information. But when we start to understand how all that works, then we can gain some traction and stop this process of, you know, being locked down again and locked down again, and we'll just say, hey, no more. I don't need to march to new world orders anymore. And I'm taking back my life. I'm taking back my freedom. I'm taking back my free will choices, and communicate with people again. You know, COVID is a real virus. I don't mean to say that it's not, but look at the national death rates. They're no different than they have been. They're the same. The annual death rate. I mean, if you go to the end of the year, you know, all these ones for the last 10 years are all the same. We should have had some kind of giant spike around the world, you know, if there's so many people dying of COVID. The fact is, it's a virus. It's not fun, but it's like every other virus that we get at election years, you know, like SARS and everything else that we end up with. We don't stop living our lives for fear of a virus. Virus is just a part of life, and we can survive it and go on, and continue to live our lives. But somehow, somewhere along the way, they were able to take this fear of death, which is, fear is the number one base component of mind control. They can tap into a person's fears. That's where they gain control. And that's why when trauma occurs in our society, like the Kennedy assassination, that's when we need to safeguard our brains. Because when trauma occurs, that's when it's like our conscious mind takes flight. It just can't deal with the situation. It takes flight and leaves the subconscious mind wide open to being easily led. And that's when people's suggestibility is heightened. So when they're scared and frightened and terrorized, that's when they need to especially be on guard to safeguard their brains and their free thought. So COVID tapped into that innate fear of death, and it turned it into like a fear of living. So now everybody's afraid to live. They put on their masks, they hide in their house, they shut down their business, they let their kids go hungry. The kids wearing masks, they're not getting enough oxygen to their brains. Neither is anyone else wearing a mask because we're not thinking clear enough anymore. We're not only that, we're muffling our voices. And I know this for a fact because masks were used in MK Ultra mind control in human trafficking operations. They depersonalize, they keep a person from speaking, they keep them alienated from everyone else. And now the whole society has been subjected to that. And they never should have complied with it the first time. And they've never really quite let go of it, because look at the horror that happened. As soon as we put our masks on and locked ourselves in our houses, our cities burned. Violence was everywhere. And it went unchecked. Nobody was locked up. Nothing was stopped. We just sat back and let it all happen because we were all so scared. We have been duped. It is so that they could usher in the new world order and take over the globe. That is a new world order. This is a global effort. That's why this is a global pandemic. That's why it happened that way. It's a very deliberate, strategic mind control effort. And anytime someone's wearing a mask, that's just mind control. It's not, everybody already knows statistically, it's not stopping a virus anyway. All it's doing is stopping us from communicating with each other. So take it off. Don't stand 6 feet apart anymore, thinking that if you stand 6 feet apart, you're not going to be 6 feet under. Hey, nobody gets out of here alive. We're all going to die someday. Live your life now and enjoy it. Take off your mask, hug each other again. Come on, let's enjoy life and just take back our personal sovereignty. If we do that first, then we can start making a difference around us. That's what it took for me coming out of mind control, was being able to reclaim my own sovereignty first, and my own free thought, my own free will, my own strength of spirit. And then I was able to start making a difference by speaking out. And my own daughter had been trafficked with a mask. I know how horribly strategic the mask alone is for mind control purposes. Look what happened to Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson he grew up in the same project I did, the same Project Monarch, MK Ultra, mind control project. And wow, we need to learn from the past. We need to learn what has gone on so that we don't just keep repeating history, and so that we can move forward in life instead.
Right. And these individuals are placed in the Hollywood industry, the governments, medical industry, probably. I mean, just at least the limitations in the medical industry that don't go into the holistic, don't go into the herbs,
Right.
And then these doctors and experts with multiple degrees, if they don't support the narrative, are banned and censored. And I don't know why that's not alarming enough for people, because these are the people that are looking out for us, that aren't promoting the fear. It's amazing that a lot of individuals still choose the road.
Yeah, exactly, because there was a prevention and a cure from the start. There always is. There was with AIDS. I know that for a fact. It's in my testimony, Transformation of America, those details of the things that I experienced and witnessed. But they've had the cure. They've had the prevention. And so those doctors are silenced too. But the media, the Project Mockingbird that you keep referring to, that's been coming in harder and harder into play. in the 90s, so many people were waking up and they were realizing what the New World Order was about. We didn't have the internet back then, but everybody was sending information through the mail. No New World Order, you know, and the militias started forming and everything. And then the media comes out, and trauma was being used to try to bring people back under control. So back then we had like the Oklahoma City bombing and Waco and Ruby Ridge. And, you know, we had horrible things that were Unabomber. We had horrible things going on that were traumatizing people so much. And every time something like that happened, the media would say, oh, it was a malicious attack. And they kept using the word malicious, because subconsciously that says militia. And by saying that to the subconscious mind while people are traumatized and glued to their televisions, it affects the brain in an odd way. And it kind of disarmed the militias just the way they wanted to. Heroes, so many heroes came out back then, like Danny Casolaro, who was exposing the octopus, and that included MK Ultra mind control. It included the corruption that was going on through the Attorney General's office at the time, which was Dick Thornburg, who was covering up for the Clinton coke lines, the cocaine operations that the CIA was involved in. All that, he was bringing all that out, and of course he was murdered, suicided. He committed suicide by slitting both of his wrists so deep that he didn't have his hands. I mean, come on, that can't happen that way. But it was suicide. Anytime somebody comes out and against the Clintons, especially, they suddenly suicide. You know, I'm not suicidal. There's a lot of whistleblowers who aren't suicidal, but a new word was termed back in the early 90s that because of the Clintons, and it was, he was suicided, or they were suicided. And that's when people were murdered. But the reporters were being murdered back then. And that had a profound impact on the media. And it really gave Mockingbird a giant step forward. And it gave him a stranglehold on the media, really. And it's only gotten worse since. Back in the early 90s, we knew Fox News was bad. There was exposés going around the patriot groups called Outfoxed that was exposing it and how they were involved in the New World Order and manipulating minds to condition them for the New World Order. You know, so people had a pretty good inkling of how things were going. And yet a constant barrage by the media coming in tighter and tighter through a deliberate strategic plan through the Project Mockingbird took its toll. And now we've reached a point now where we have no media anymore. The best of anything we have is tabloids type journalism, where it's a headline that's so deceiving that you never even know what the real story was supposed to ever have been. I mean, there is no truth in news. It's so difficult to find. I'll watch like OAN for news, and still that doesn't mean every single reporter on OAN is, I'm going to take that as gospel, but it sure is a great way to take some information and go research it and see. Don't take anything. I don't want anybody to even take my testimony in Transformation of America just, on face value. I want them to research every single bit of it for themselves, because the more we research, the more we learn, the more we uncover, and the stronger we become in being able to take back our free thought. So no one needs to be following any one particular media anyway. We need to talk to each other.
Oh my God, so brilliant. I so am on board with everything you're saying about that. And that is so huge. To be a part of the greater conversation, to have an open enough mind, to begin to say, this is worthy of greater investigation. And it's crazy. So, I mean, so there's blackmail, and then there's also fear of being suicided, I guess, is what keeps people in the whole thing. But you endured abuse by the Clintons. I don't know if you want to get into that. What is it like though, to see that these mass arrests haven't happened. I mean, somebody's coming out with a testimony like you. Where's that part of our system that, I mean, it's amazing that it's as dark as it is.
It's
in
never
the
been there
system
for
that
me.
you have witness testimony. Victim testimony, and it's just unbelievable to me. Unbelievable to me. So I don't know if you want to talk about HC and some of that, but when you see that people aren't really being held accountable, is it because they have been executed and they're clones, and the media is just tricking us? I mean, like, how do we make sense out of this? Because after your story came out, one would have thought, oh, immediately this is going to go to court. This is going to need to be
Well, you
investigated.
would think. But national security was put on it right away because Dick Thornburg
right. Yes,
was one of my primary abusers. So I have never seen justice. I have never experienced any. So after 30 years now of in pursuit of justice, to me, the ultimate justice is positive change through public awareness. That's the only way that we can ever have any real true justice reestablished, is for people to wake up. So I end up with a much broader view on that. I look at the Clintons. Okay, they haven't been locked up. And that was the big campaign thing in 2016. Lock her up, lock her up. And boy, I was hollering it right with everybody, of course.
Me
And
too.
I thought, yeah, how great that would be. And yet, our justice system is so corrupted, there's too much to clean up. And so the efforts to do it all along was just started exposing more and more and more of the corruption that has permeated our system in order to cover up crimes against humanity that were funding mechanisms for the New World Order. That would be human trafficking, drug trafficking, George Bush's heroin operations, Bill Clinton's cocaine operations, all the human trafficking operations that have been going on for so long. Those were funding the New World Order. And knowing that my whole life, since I had been born into it and was being trafficked from such a very, 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 very early age, that it's been amazing to me to see over the past 4 years, to see the human trafficking operation being dismantled, being stopped at our border, because the Clintons had really, especially the Clintons, had opened up our Mexican border to the free flow of drugs and human trafficking. It was a massive flow. And to see that stopped, the efforts that it took to do it and bring it to light, the organizations that sprang up around the effort, the awareness that has gone into every society is just phenomenal. I've always been amazed that the state of Alabama has taken such a strong stand against human trafficking. Even before 2016, they were already taking a stand against it, because there were people in places that were acutely aware and were making a difference. But then to see how people started seeing it in their communities, and then they needed to protect their children. How many mothers have been in the same position I have been in a court of law and had their children turned right over to the traffickers and to the abusers? That happens constantly, and it's got to stop. But the awareness has reached a point now where at least human trafficking is a term that people are aware of and they understand. When I came running out of that hell and telling everybody about it, it was called white slavery back then. And that was what Senator Byrd called it. That's what the rest of them called it, was white slavery operations. And it's not because everybody was white, and it wasn't because everybody was male or female. It wasn't any of that. It's just what they called it. Probably because Senator Byrd is one of the most racist, horrible creatures that has ever been on this planet, with his KKK affiliations, and of course,
But then the white
was,
slavery, and he's a
yes,
KKK.
Yeah, and of course that was Hillary Clinton's mentor, and Joe
Biden.
Biden's.
There's the footage of that.
So yeah, lots of it. So when I came out of it, people didn't know what white slavery was. They didn't know what mind control was. They didn't have any point of reference for understanding it, not even really in mental health, because one of the founders of MK Ultra Mind Control was also the founder of the American Psychiatric and Psychological Associations. And so that information was deliberately omitted from mental health from the get-go. So secret knowledge equals power. And like I said, knowledge is our defense against mind control, so that knowledge was suppressed. It was suppressed in mental health. It was kept out of our justice system. Our Attorney General was Dick Thornburgh. That cannot be overlooked. His assistant was Bill Barr, incidentally, just saying. And when Dick Thornburgh was removed from office, he claimed that he was just stepping down so that he could run for Senate, but he'd been caught up in so much cocaine scandal and everything else. You know, I wonder, somebody like Bill Barr was in a position to see so much and know so much, and may not have appreciated being left in that position, you know, kind of like holding the bag or whatever. You know, I have no, I still just sit back and watch. What's he doing? I did not know Bill Barr, but I sure knew Dick Thornburgh, and the corruption through the Justice Department that happened as a result of that, and the fact that Senator Byrd had an office in the FBI building so that he could organize the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children was originated there through Byrd. So it was a catch net operation for
a cover.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, and that's rampant, like with the CP. I mean, just all these different organizations that are actually covering that up, right?
So yeah, so the FBI is just totally complicit, so much so. I had no faith in our Justice Department, and I have every reason not to. I think we're going to have to drain the swamp, and they need to go down the swamp drain instead of keep clogging that swamp drain with the roots. They need to go down it in one loud whoosh,
right?
And just flush it all down. CIA, FBI, and the Department of Justice, and then we need to restructure it over from there, because it's just
because behind these organizations, and the one that you just mentioned, like even Planned Parenthood, like everything that is an outer organization. Yes. What was the first one that you mentioned, though?
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Yeah. And then it was a catch net operation back when Ken Lanning was running it, and that was in the 90s. That's in a lot of this kind of information, and the roots like that are in access denied for reasons of national security. Because when Mark rescued my daughter Kelly and I out in 1988, we began experiencing the corruption within those systems that we had witnessed since I was a MK Ultra mind control slave on a White House Pentagon level, considered a presidential model. I saw a lot from the inside under mind control, which was a completely different experience than being out and going through this corrupted system, trying to get help for my daughter who had been trafficked. And so here comes FBI agent Brad Garrett, who, you know, anybody can look up his history and he is Clinton cover-up extraordinaire with the FBI and ABC consultant and all this other stuff. Well, he came in and testified against my daughter who had been trafficked and was under mind control. And he did so much that was criminally horrible with the FBI interrogation that I've endured, that my child endured. No one should. And now we hear these whistleblowers coming forward and they're saying, oh, the election was rigged and this is what I saw. And then the FBI comes in and interrogates them so bad. They know how to manipulate minds, terrify them, terrorize them, and then manipulate their subconscious so that they just kind of, freeze up, lock down, and back off. That's what they do. We have no need for that kind of so-called justice in this country. They need to be dismantled. It needs to be taken down, and we need to get some justice restored to our system. My daughter never did see any justice. She remained a political prisoner in the state of Tennessee until she was 18, and from there, it's a nightmare what she has been put through. What's in place we're seeing today is something that I witnessed from the inside, blew the whistle on, in my testimony, Transformation of America, which was uncensored under the National Security Act by the very people that I was naming, and then to come out and experience it from the other side, and it's the same people, and seeing now that they're finally being exposed for the criminal corruption that they are. I don't know what makes people want to be that way. I don't know why they want to cover up for pedophilia. I know many were compromised because the blackmail videotapes back then, that like they've got all the blackmail stuff, I guess, with Epstein these days. They had it with an actor named Michael Dante, and he had this huge vault of videotapes of politicians and of the judges and whoever they were corrupting, whoever they were blackmailing, putting them in these sexually compromising positions, taking them to some beautiful island somewhere and, and filming extreme perversions and stuff. That's in my testimony. That went on back then. After so many generations of this going on, you can see how deeply embedded it is in our society. And the only reason that this same handful, like I said, it's the same handful of people, because you'll recognize the names in the book are the same ones today. They're the same ones, it's like, come on, it's just a handful of criminals, people. But people are so good-hearted, they don't want to believe it exists.
I know, and that's the thing, is their good nature kind of blocks them from the truth. But I mean, it's like you got to expand that great nature to be brave enough, as if people are brave enough to be whistleblowers, people need to be brave enough to listen. And that is starting to enter into the higher heart, not just the good human, but it goes beyond. And so when we're seeing the Epstein being called out kind of headlines, and a lot of this being brought to more attention, and knowing the extent of these kind of rings, I mean, what were your thoughts on that? And also, do you feel that some of these players like the Gates and the Faustis out there are a part of all this? And I don't know if that maybe is too much of a question, but I mean, so maybe start with the first one, like that must have felt like, wow, this is a huge breakthrough. And were you kind of hearing about that, or a part of experiencing some of his world in your?
It was so intertwined because, and it was like just where things evolved to after Mark had rescued my daughter and me out of it. But back then, like Madeleine Albright was running operations out of the OAS building, the Organization of American States. And of course, it was our Secretary of State, and just very recently was taken down by President Trump. So, these people are being exposed, but the correlation between her and the whole, Epstein Island area, the whole Caribbean operations that I was used in, St. Thomas, Haiti, all of those operations, they were all so closely associated. It's like, okay, let's dig deep enough and maybe we'll get that root. Like I was saying, if we had just locked up Hillary from the get-go, that would be like plucking the rosebud off the plant, off this giant rose bush, when in fact the whole bush needs to be pulled up, roots and all, so we don't want to just have one that's not going to stop the whole thing. What we need is exposure of the whole mess so that people can learn from it and realize that these kind of people live in this world. They are running these operations. It's more than just Hillary Clinton. It's more than just Jeffrey Epstein. You know, there's so many that are, there's so many tentacles that need to be revealed as well. So
Like the royal.
I'm happy to come into light today.
You're happy to what?
I'm happy to see all that come into light today.
Oh,
that
yeah.
at least people are seeing the whole picture instead of just focusing on, because if you can blame one person, then you're not dealing with the issue.
Oh,
blame
exactly.
games.
Exactly. I mean, it's so much bigger than that. I mean, but wouldn't you say Biden and Obama are involved?
I would say that there's no way that they can't be. It's obvious what their agenda is, you know, and that's what we need to start seeing is that agenda, so we can start identifying perpetrators. Because who's going to come along next and try this unless we learn from it? History is destined to repeat itself if we don't learn it. And it's like Mark always said, you have to know where you've been to know where you're going. And that's why history's been rewritten in global education, Common Core education, so that people have no clue what true history is, so that they could just shape their views. We all formulate our thoughts, opinions, and action based on what we know. And we need to know our knowledge base has been altered for generations now in the school system. We can go back to truth in education. The 1776 commission that this administration put together is one of the most promising things. If we the people can only get behind it and make it happen, where we can reestablish truth in education and teach children how to think again instead of what to think, because they've only been told what to think. Yeah. And what they've been told to think is wrong. It's a false knowledge base. And so they don't even know how to formulate their actions and opinions. They can only do it from an emotional outrage that that has no basis. You know, oh, I hate. And it's like, and why do you hate? Oh, he's a racist. And it's like, okay.
Well, yeah, I know. I don't want to go into that. That's a huge part.
Yeah, do you want to? Yeah. So they have no basis even, but they're parroting words. They're spewing program.
Yeah,
that's all.
They can't. And think of all the starseed missions too that are sort of given stigmas, or that child needs to be medicated because they won't sit still in class when they're the geniuses and the starseeds that, you know, and then they're mistreated and act stupid. Or
can you imagine them getting like this global education that's so totally illogical and full of lies and makes no sense? Even they took math and made it into some kind of, they just totally changed math. How do you change math? But they did, you know, so that all of a sudden it's illogical and doesn't even really make sense anymore. Well, by making it illogical, how can any child foresee that socialism doesn't work? They can't do the math. They don't know that it's not going to work. They don't know that free stuff for everybody means you're paying, you know, from another angle. They don't know any of that because, so it's been a strategic breakdown in the way that people think so that they can only just parrot information without any basis for it. So now we've got to go back and learn how to think again. I had to learn how to think when I woke up from mind control, because I only knew how to robotically do exactly what I was told to do. I could only say what I had been programmed to say. I could only parrot those words the way that I was programmed to do. And I had to learn to think for myself. And it was a challenge. It took brain exercise, and people are going to have to take the time to exercise their brains again and learn to expand their thinking beyond what they think they know and realize that there's so much more to learn. PTSD Time to Heal shows people step by step how I learned to think again. So this is something that even if someone doesn't have PTSD, they still can learn to expand their thinking beyond what the media is telling them to think, to think beyond the perceptions that have been formed for them.
Yeah,
They're gonna
I
be
think
able to
that's the
learn-
difference between PTSD and brainwashing, where they don't maybe feel the PTSD response, but they're literally, their mind is taken over, even if it has been done without the trauma. Sorry, keep going. Do you agree with kind of what?
Well, PTSD is kind of a result, is a result of the trauma. It's like, I live with PTSD now, and like my brilliant friend said the other day, she was saying, knowing how to live with PTSD is such a profound experience in itself, because you know the ins and outs of your own mind and how your brain works, and the ability to be able to stretch into new areas. It's so amazing what our brains are capable of, and if people realize that, they too would enjoy what my friend was referring to, that the PTSD, it's not that it's a good thing, it's what has been learned in this process that is so amazing. For example, when trauma occurs, a person develops 44 times visual acuity. This is a good example. The 44 times visual acuity is something that was tapped into for the military, so that they would be able to point and shoot and hit their target with this amazing visual capacity. That ability is developed because it's like a person's trying to see the trauma before it happens again. It's that wide-eyed, it's the eyes in the back of the head. It's trying to see all that. Well, it compensates in the brain finally, and it becomes this hypervision ability that our brains are capable of. We don't have to have the trauma to realize that we can do that. And that's what I'm so excited about, as that people can get to learn about what our brains are capable of. And it's so amazing. We have, I have extremely heightened intuitions. Since I didn't have capacity to think for myself, I developed these heightened intuitions, much the way a blind person develops heightened hearing. So I gained these intuitions. When I healed, and I'm not being traumatized anymore, I still have that knowing that my brain did that, and I have those paths, so it's mine now, and I get to use it at will. And it's so exciting to get to be able to do that and realize that we have been given this capacity and ability within us all along. It's like the No Time to Bleed programming that military special forces endure. They are able to use mind control on a level of the subconscious mind that regulates breathing and blood flow and heartbeat. If they can regulate that from outside input, imagine what we can do from within. We have been given that amazing gift. What an amazing thing we have within us that we can use for our own benefit and regulate our own heartbeat, our own blood pressure, to be able to acknowledge pain and shut it off and not have to feel it. We have all those abilities within our brains that have been used in adverse ways in MK Ultra mind control, but nevertheless are something that we have within us. And it's like no time to bleed. When a person is under mind control, they have no concept of time, because they have no conscious awareness. They have no conscious awareness of time. Without a concept of time and no awareness, and there's no time to bleed. By the same concept, I utilize it as I do not have time to catch a cold, and I don't. I have no time for that, because I've got information to get out there. I've got a life to live. I have a walk to take. I have something wonderful, to possibly do. So I don't take time for that. We have that within us. And instead, we're being told, mask up, lock down. And it's like, oh my gosh, people, please wake up and realize that we have this amazing ability within us to fight off a virus, to be able to live healthy, happy, free lives. That's definitely a positive that I have gained from the negatives of my my mind control experience. And all that's like crammed into this little tiny book, PTSD Time to Heal. You know, these are the methods Mark taught me. Mark was so amazing. He was, he worked in the highest levels of intelligence, mind sciences. And he realized that we had these capacities, and he was so excited what we could do to free our mental institutions, what we could do to help prisoners, what we could do for rehabilitation, what we could. He was so excited about that when he saw and realized that that information was being used to control a population for the purposes of ushering in the New World Order. He was outraged when he saw that pedophilia was being sanctioned because the Hitler-Himmler research had proved that the sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 created this dissociative identity disorder that made them a prime candidate for mind control and made them compliant, easily led. That's why the pedophile agenda is being pushed, because it makes people so easily led throughout the rest of their lives. While their brain is still forming, when that happens, it's a horrible thing. And Mark was realizing all of this was going on, and he was so outraged that it was going on the highest levels of our government, sanctioned through a corrupted Justice Department and the CIA and the FBI, that he just decided to take action against it all. He was one of the very first who, he rescued me out of human trafficking operations in 1988. That was a long time ago. And people are just hearing about all this stuff now. We're just now seeing the corruption. But Mark saw it back in 1988. He said, "Oh, no more. We can't do this. This is not the way to live. I'm going to make a difference." And he rescued my daughter and me right out from under their coke-filled noses, because they were. And that's why cocaine operations keep going on, because they're addicted. That's just something that a lot of the politicians and everybody uses on such high levels. It's just so pervasive.
Isn't
So
adrenochrome?
anyway,
Oh, keep going.
yes, that too. That's yeah.
And adrenochrome, really is what they draw from children in ritual abuse, or
Torture, because torture is part of mind control. And then they also get the blood from that. That was learned from occultism. That came out of the occult aspect of things. And they found out that blood traumas and torture were, and then how the Satanists would drink blood and everything, that was their adrenochrome back then. They knew that the adrenaline of a tortured victim was something that was tapped into then. Back when I was really thrust into MK Ultra mind control, and being moved into Washington, D.C. on a White House Pentagon level, my first handler was an occult serial killer, Wayne Cox. He was an assassin for mercenary operations and for the CIA for the Clintons. And he worked directly for the Clintons at that time. And Roger Clinton was like his buddy in the in occultism. Roger Clinton, of course, Bill Clinton's some form of brother in there, down the line somewhere. But anyway, so that was very much a part of my earliest experience with the Clintons, was not only the cocaine operations, but also the horror of the occultism and the blood traumas and the origins of adrenochrome, which were being transported through tortured blood, which was the most horrible trauma base I think anybody could endure. And it certainly traumatized me to where I had no capacity for free thought anymore. And it made me totally robotic. And it's how I was used on a White House Pentagon level. I had endured so much torture, but the things that I witnessed and experienced were the most horrific of all. And knowing that my own child was abused and I couldn't stop the abuse was the most horrible thing. It's the most horrible torture that anybody could ever experience. I cannot think of anything worse or anything more effective than that. And these are the things that Mark Phillips had saw going on. And he said, no more. And he rescued my daughter and I out of it. And it was just the most heroic, beautiful thing. And of course, we fell in love in the process. But when he first rescued me, I had no capacity to trust anyone at all. I didn't know good people existed in the world. I didn't know goodness existed. And so when he rescued me, his pets taught me, people who abuse children abuse animals. They go hand in hand. It just always works that way. And I never saw anything like it. All Mark's pets loved him. He had pet fox, pet raccoons. He had so many different animals, and they would all they were constantly crawling all over him. If he took a walk in nature, he had wild animals walking. He was just one of those kind of people. He had birds land on. He was really cool like that. And it was like, those animals taught me to trust. It was like, wow, if they can trust him, I can. So that's how I learned to trust. And it was the most beautiful thing. And once I learned to trust Mark, that was when I first began remembering. It's like my brain knew I was safe for the first time in my life. And so I started remembering all that I had been tortured to forget, and was able to heal accordingly. But it began with trust. And on a grander scale, everybody needs to gain trust for each other again. We've all been separated. You're the one who voted for that. You're the one who caused this. No, it's a handful of criminals creating an illusion, manipulating the media to make us think they're bigger numbers than they are. No, we need to just take off our masks, reach out to each other again, communicate again, and rediscover the beauty that we all do share. It amazed me to find out that good people not only exist in this world, but they are by far the majority. And it's such a beautiful thing to get to see and experience and know. It's, no, people, wake up. Don't let that happen. Don't let your minds be shut down. Don't let that beauty be taken away from you. Start talking to each other again. Understand what has happened to us all. Understand the sanctity of free thought and how it correlates with the strength of the human spirit, and that the human spirit is what this handful of criminals fears the most, and they're trying to squash it in us all, and we can't let it happen. Now we have elected a president, again, by a landslide majority. There's no question about it. We need to stand up and make ourselves seen, make our voices heard, and do not let this illusion of that some majority of whatever actually voted for blatant pedophilia, for mind control, human trafficking, drug operations, and for a new world order where a handful of big guys make all the money and we slave to them. We don't need that. We need to wake up and reclaim our humanity, reclaim our strength of spirit. We all have it within us to do it. We just have to realize that that's what's going on around us. Stop blaming each other. Stop fighting with each other. Stop falling for the divisiveness of race and gender and whatever other illusions that are being created to divide us. Don't fall for it. Don't even fall for the Democrat-Republican thing, because that's not real either. That's an illusion. The New World Order knows no party lines, except their Coke lines that they use all the time. So, it's up to us all as individuals to start waking each other up and start making a difference. Reclaim our schools, reclaim our society, reclaim our justice system. We've got an opportunity in front of us, unlike never before in history. Well, we almost had it with President Kennedy, but then again, that's why 1,000 Pieces is such a crucial documentary for everyone to see. The levels to it, the dimensions to it are so important. But we almost had it then, and it was taken from us then. Do not let it be taken from us again. It's time, people. This is it. This is our moment. This is our opportunity. And the Great Awakening is happening on a grand scale. And just because social media shut down the magnitude, our ability to see the magnitude of that movement, doesn't mean it's not happening. Keep it going. Keep the momentum up. Keep waking each other up, and realize that we are the majority by far. We have all the strength. And stand by the president that we elected, who is representing us. He is not interested in a new world order. He has been dismantling the human trafficking operations. He has been exposing these perpetrators that I have been screaming about for over 30 years, screaming into the wind, it seems, for over 30 years. He's exposing it. Come on, this is our chance. This is it. Open your eyes, wake up, take back your life. This is our time. It's our time to stop the steal of our minds and stop the steal of this election, because this election is about so much more than politics.
Oh,
Everything.
yes. Oh my gosh, your words. I swear, I'm just like, it's just incredible. And just the whole believing, not just believing, but knowing the power of the human spirit overrides everything, because you can't dupe spirit, just like they couldn't take your spirit.
Right.
I mean, that very statement and what you just shared about that is why I do what I do, because I know that in my heart of hearts. And I do feel this administration is, it's like we're team light. Like, I feel like we're like a family, And I know we're not going to get the news. I mean, I think it's confusing about the vaccination thing right now for people, as far as he's concerned with the Operation Warp Speed. But before you maybe address that, what were you going to say?
That my spirit was always in a safe, loving space. Even when I was being tortured, whatever I did, my spirit was always in a safe, loving space. And it's an amazing thing to know so absolutely what an amazing experience I've had, that I wish everyone knew the magnitude of the power of love and what we collectively are, and the lights that we are, because it's the light that we are can overcome any darkness, and we need to get to shine in it. It's definitely time. I'm so excited for this powerfully transitional time that we're living. And I trust in humanity to wake up fast enough and to realize their strength, and not let the media tell them what's going on. We've got to rise above that. We've got to just realize what we have from within ourselves. And again, PTSD Time to Heal, it's on my website, transformation.com. I posted it when COVID hit, because I knew everybody needed it now, and I knew they needed to be able to just have it regardless of income. So it's there with the option to pay if you can, and support what I do. And if you can't, I am supporting everyone healing, and it's there for you. Just go get it, trans-formation.com. And those are the healing methods Mark taught me, that he learned from the highest levels of mind sciences. This is what the government has kept from us, and it's all so simple. It's easy to apply, and everyone can reclaim their free thought, strength of spirit, and expand their thinking beyond the dark negativity that they're being bombarded with. So it's an opportunity for us all. Mark dedicated his whole life to bringing this information out there. He gave his life bringing this information out there, and I'm going to honor his life by ensuring this information is out there. So it's secured. The integrity of the information is secured on my website. Many of my books, especially Transformation of America, are pirated ebooks. They alter the information to fit different political agendas. So please, by all means, make sure you're getting the information direct, that you're not buying pirated copies, because those, they're distorting and diluting truth, which is such a big movement today. And it's crucial to have truth, because it is truth that makes us free. And in that freedom, we have our strength of spirit and can live life's purpose again, and rise out of these harsh transitional times that we're in.
Oh, gosh. And that's what's so incredible. I mean, sort of the timing of, Jupiter, Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, and being able to connect with you who, I mean, the English language is limited. There are better words, I'm sure, but you've been my hero for so long and inspired, me to take the mission I came in with to a whole other level in order to, expose this kind of stuff. And I mean, do you ever wonder, why is the human race so hated by these families and beings? I mean, I get there's a need for negative polarity in order for people to wake up, but don't you, it's like, sometimes it feels like this has gone so far. Like, how did it get so bad? Like, I mean, whatever happened, is there a divine plan? I mean, and this is what I love about what you're talking about, because regardless if there is one or not, we are that when we begin to recognize that it's up to us to call that forth. I mean, it's like the divine is in the physical that's battling something. I mean, I don't want to overly ramble, but you kind of get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, well, it's like Bird said, good people don't think to look for that kind of criminal activity. And he's right. We don't think like they do. And I don't want to think like they do. That is horrible.
Why do they
we
hate
see
it
what
so
they've done. But the thing that everyone needs to realize is that they can't think like we do. They don't have the capacity. They don't have that strength of spirit. They don't have that light within them to be able to give so much power and dimension to their thinking. And the way that Mark always put it is he said, we have wisdom, and wisdom outthinks a criminal mind every time. We have more dimension. We have so much more capacity than they have. They are like just narrow, mean, hateful, flatline thinkers that have gone under our radar because we didn't think to look for that kind of thinking on our planet. They aren't like us. I don't care. We can call them demons. We can call them aliens. We can call them terrorists. We can call them anything we want. But by any other name, we have the strength. We are the ones who are able to take back control of our own lives and our own planet from this dark negative force that's been just sneaking in for so long.
Does it feel like an invader to you, or a part of the free will universe, sort of going into the lost and found that we had to, I know I don't know where.
No, you make so much sense. There's so many questions that I asked myself, and looked at. It's like when Mark first rescued me, I thought he must be either an alien or an angel or, something, but he was a human being. He was a man. He was just a man living his life's purpose with his strength of spirit and the light of love. And so it's love for humanity that keeps me speaking out, and keeps me moving forward, because I know that that's a power they can't touch. They can't relate to it. And the only way that they can affect it at all is through mind control and through subduing our free thought. That's why our free thought is so sacred and why it's so important that we reclaim it. But whatever, they are not the least bit like us in any way. I started examining in my healing process when I first wanted to find out, you know, like, who am I? You know, like what people do. Who am I? Why am I here? You know, that kind of thing. Why am I alive and so many didn't survive? And I couldn't find a way to do it. And everybody said, well, you have to forgive your abusers. And that was like, I don't condone what they did. Why do I do that? You know, I'm not going to hate them because that's their energy. They can't have that. I'm going to live the love I am. So I kept looking at it from outside perspectives, and it was like, okay, daily affirmations weren't getting it for me. Then people were saying, well, you have to love yourself. And it's like, okay, you know, like, what daily affirmation could I do? Finally, I found that just looking so deep, I went to the base core energy of all that I am, that spirit that was always in the safe, loving space, and I realized that I am love, that I don't have to tell myself that I love myself kind of thing. I just need to live the love I am. And when I realized that, it was like so strengthening and healing in every way. So I don't know if that's an answer in any way, but
yeah, everything you say is the answer. I mean, my question is probably, oh no, everything you share is profound.
Yeah, hate's their energy, dark is their energy. So I'm going to be love and light because that's my energy, and that's easy to be, and overcome it. But we need to realize that that kind of darkness exists on our planet. By whatever put it here, whatever form it is, we need to just realize that it's here and stop it from stealing our children, stealing our minds, and stealing our election. We got to stop this, because this is more than an election. The whole world is pivoting on this moment in time.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's why it's so incredible to have this conversation, because it really amplifies the energy, because we're creative beings. We need to stay connected to our creative imagination and amplify this. But it's amazing to me, just the disconnect. And I something huge was coming through and I kind of lost it. But as we see what's kind of like rolling down the line, the CCP part of it, like is that kind of a surprise to you, or is that always sort of evident that force exists? And that is maybe the central point in where these other names, it's not about like the Obamas, the Clintons, and naming the names, but like, where would you say the central core of this corruption is streaming from?
I don't say it's even in any country. And I've written a lot of articles that I post in both audio and written on my website, because I can say more than I can say in a tweet, and I'm not censored on my website like I am on social media. So I can, you know, I can get more information out there. And I think there's a lot in there on how I view this whole COVID lockdown of our minds, and the fact that anytime I've ever looked at China, all the people always wore masks. And I always thought that was so sad, because I knew that it was mind control, because I know that it's used in MK Ultra, and I know what it does to the brain, and I know what it does to alienate people and to depersonalize and everything else. And I thought that was so sad. And so now it's like we're all wearing masks like China. Like, come on, we are not China. Take off our masks. Maybe we can help the good people in China to take theirs off and start to reclaim their own free thought. You know, I don't know. The thing is, it's like there's good and bad in everything, in every nation. And I just know that love is the most powerful force in the universe, and it always wins. So, you know, we need to just help that happen and get this dark force from undermining our capacity to shine our lights, because that's exactly what's happening with mind control. We need to wake up from it, take back our lives, and take back our minds, because that's where our light is. That's where our love is. That's what this world is here for. And it's time.
And all the good and well-intentioned people, I just really hope hear this message and take it seriously. This is not about politics. This is about a much
Right.
larger picture. And, people raising their young children, people that are just having children and in the birthing process right now. And all the people being manipulated into, possibly taking a vaccine. But then, there's the T-man. So if you wouldn't mind, I swear I could talk to you for hours and I want to respect your time. But so obviously the Trump administration holds so much hope. And there's something very, very different about him. And so obviously there's a strategy and something about like a larger picture, kind of greater plan, I feel he's attuned with, but he's kind of learning and he's got his human aspects. But
I think it's
the Operation Warp Speed stuff, or maybe we already kind of covered that, but I mean, you really do feel that he's a true ally. I feel that.
Well, I know for a fact that he is, because back when I was under MK Ultra mind control, I wrote an article on it, and it's called Trump One of Us, because they made it very clear that he was not one of them. And when my handler told me, he said, Trump's not one of us, you got to stay away, and all this, and go directly from this point to meet to the meeting that I was having. They feared him so bad back then. And any time that I was told someone's not one of us, I didn't have the capacity to think it through or to even digest the thought or anything like that. It was a command to me that I was not to have anything to do with that particular person. But the magnitude of how that resonated with me, it was like, didn't happen all that often, but whatever it was, they feared him. And that was way back then. And obviously they're still fearing him now, so people go, well, how can you support a president after, what you've been through? And it's like, I'm not supporting one person. I am supporting actions taken. I am supporting the fact that human trafficking is being dismantled. I'm supporting the fact that so much truth is coming to light. I'm supporting the fact that everything is being done to wake people up from mind control. How many ways can he say, take off your mask? Just because the media shuts him down on it. How many ways can he say there's a cure for this, that the media shuts him down on it? But he's doing what he can. And I think that it's up to all of us to take a stand beside him for once and make a difference, because otherwise we are going to lose this country and lose our constitutional values of freedom and justice. Above all, we are losing our free thought. And this is a pivot point for the whole world. Come on, people, wake up. Take off your mask and take a stand.
Did you expect it to get, well, I know you mentioned in the beginning of the interview that, yes, if your story was not censored because of national security and it was able to reach more people, we might have been able to divert this. But is this super surprising or shocking? Or do you feel like, well, even though it could have been different in the here and now, that we inevitably had to move through this like really dark veil? It's just happening maybe a little later, but that doesn't mean that that's a problem necessarily, because enough people are standing up, even though it could have been addressed earlier. I mean, what I learned about Looking Glass Technologies, they weren't able to read anything past 2012. So they can only really use propaganda and manipulation through media to capture minds and harvest and siphon that kind of energy. But man, I have so many convoluted kind of questions, like, organize your brain, Laura. But you know what I mean?
It's hard to see people caving in and locking down. It's hard to see any one person doing it, knowing what I know. And if I look too closely at little steps along the way and what is happening, it can be very disheartening. So I need to always take a higher view, rise above the storm. And above the storm, oh my gosh, the view is so amazing, because then it's easier to see how there are steps being taken that I can't foresee. The genius behind what's being orchestrated is like 10 steps ahead of what we're seeing today. I mean, it's just like, and then seeing that unfold, it's like, whoa, this is so amazing. Mark and I often wondered, how could this possibly be unraveled? How could this whole new world order be unraveled? We would contemplate that, and think about it. And we knew that 2016, when Trump was elected, that the voice of the people had reached, the awareness had reached critical mass for the voice of the people to actually overcome the rigged electronic voting machines. Those machines were unrigged 2016, and we, the people, elected that president. We knew it was the pivot point. This was it. This was so amazing. But how could it unravel from there? We knew that if you just, picked that rosebud off and just locked up one person, people wouldn't get it. They'd never know what it was about. And probably make a martyr out of her or something, So they had to see more. So it's like getting to watch the whole thing unfold is so amazing. I see a lot of people saying, oh yeah, just watch the show, eat the popcorn. No, don't just watch the show anymore. You need to take a stand and start making a difference in your own community. Make a difference every place you can. Call your congressman, call your senators, let them know that their days are numbered in that office. I just wrote an article, what we can do, and posted it today on my website. And it lists the different things that people can do. But we need to start taking that action. We need to start taking that stand. I understand there's going to be a rally in DC on January 6th. And to me, it's kind of a funny thing, because they always play the numbers games, they always do that. And like the 6 feet apart, 6 feet under, the 666, the $600, here you go, all this nonsense. And it's like, we can like turn that game on them and absolutely win it January 6th, and show up in such vast numbers and make your presence known, and stand against the steal of this election. And it's up to us to make that stand, because there's nobody in Congress going to do it. Those elections have been rigged for so long. There isn't anybody in there that isn't aware of that treasonous normal. There's not any one of them that doesn't know it on some level. How they capitalized on it or didn't is for them to deal with. The fact is, we need to know that this has gone on for a long, long time, and there's not anybody in Congress we can rely on unless we go hold them to it. It's up to us now. It's up to the people. We, the people, have to take back our country, because that's the way we take back our lives. That's the way we take back our minds. That's the way we take back our purpose in living this life and live the love we are.
Oh, and what that manifests, it's like, 'cause we're in this greater sort of planetary energy, and it's an organism, and we're like the micro version of it, and it's like learning a holistic way to heal from cancer, like doing it on our own terms, because we're able to learn from all of it without having something external tell us what it is, that outer authority that's been compromising us. And,
Right.
I'm just standing right there with you. And I mean, there's nothing I won't do for the sake of this greater purpose and mission. And I know we probably have to close soon. And it's like, oh, I just love hanging out with you. It's like, oh man. And I know I had like
absolutely wonderful. It has been so wonderful. But when I knew it was time to emerge for the first time publicly with 1,000 Pieces documentary, I knew it. I knew this was everybody involved is so synchronistic and harmonious, and it all came together so big, so fast, and so profound. and is making a difference and will continue to make a difference for a long time to come. The things that we do, we never know how many lives we touch. We never know how much of a difference that we make, but it reverberates on and on and on. So we just keep giving our all with our all and keep living the love we are. We can't go wrong. But come on, everybody.
I know, like, yes, do it together. It's like, there's
your life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, there's no opposition. There's no choosing sides. It's all about the integration of polarity. It's all about the love for all. But we just want to break down the mind control. We just want to, just pull you away from those horrible energies that are trying to think for you, that are giving you a false sense of empowerment with the degrees and certifications from these indoctrination institutions. And it's like they've really targeted the self-esteem of humans that, really do want. I mean, it's insane. But this seems to be very interesting as far as how the psychological part of it is changing, and I feel, with conversations like this and all that you're doing, it's even if people aren't getting it right away, their higher self and unconscious self is getting the signals as far as what we're helping to bring to the collective consciousness and those steps that are being taken, because you've overcome the most extreme. So if you can do it, all those that are getting that indoctrination and mind control and social engineering experience absolutely can do it too. Learn how to be a warrior and be heroic and be brave and be courageous. And Cathy O'Brien is, to me, the most pioneering and heroic woman that I've ever known. And yeah, I cried for hours before we talked, and that doesn't happen often. It's like, I love you more than you'll ever know.
Oh, this is the sweetest thing. When I came screaming out of that hell and telling people what I was hoping would help my daughter, just trying to educate people to help my daughter. I learned that telling truth sometimes is just seeds planted, and sometimes you're not going to see positive results right in that moment, but they will reverberate. Truth never goes away, and those seeds planted are going to blossom, and it will someday. And at this point, I hear from people all the time that said, oh my gosh, I didn't believe you 30 years ago, but I sure do now, like that. And it's like, well, it's not about believing me. It's about believing in the goodness of humanity and stopping this dark, hateful force from encroaching on our free thought and on our strength of spirit.
Are we experiencing a great awakening?
And election 2020 is not about left versus right.
We have staggering statistical evidence. We have staggering testimony from witnesses.
It's about good versus evil.
Are you an expert in voter fraud?
No, I'm not.
We're living now in an information age.
We relied heavily on the FBI's intelligence.
Information is the new weapon.
The media first began spreading this conspiracy theory.
They're creating an illusion through the media.
Don't be ridiculous. Networks don't get to decide elections.
There's corruption on both sides.
Courts do.
Again, why elections matter. I think it gives the president an opportunity to dive into those agencies.
You're aware of the White House meeting where the notes show that Vice President Biden at the time directly suggested using the Logan Act to go after General Clinton.
Take out those people that don't have the best interests of this country in mind.
We have put together the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
And I am going to expose every one of them.
Is a coup against this great awakening being played out?
This is about our national security.
Through methods of media manipulation.
And this is about our constitutional right.
False flag events.
The digital soldier movement needs to keep up the fight.
Funding of violent insurgents.
You're allowed to protest, millions of people on one day in crowds yelling, screaming, but you try to run your business, you get arrested.
And the targeting of revolutionary leaders.
And it's going to be war. Do you understand me? I'm a warrior. I'm a sniper in the kingdom of God.
Human trafficking has many more victims than COVID.
Mr. Secretary, is it policy of the U.S. government to reward companies that traffic in women and little girls?
Wall Street has laundered $100 trillion from trafficking in children and drugs and guns and gold.
As a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time.
Only do we need to realize the complicity of the CIA, the FBI, the Justice Department, stacking even of our Supreme Court.
These agencies are facing a time of reckoning.
People have got to break free and start thinking for themselves.
Are we at yet another crossroads between the demise and undoing of our republic or its revitalization and rebirth?
I'm going to release the Kraken.
I'll splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind.
This documentary, everybody, it's life altering. Share it with friends and family. There's no way you can really dispute what is coming through with the documentary. But anything we didn't, get a chance to talk about that you want to bring up?
Yeah, they should go to 1000pieces.com because that will give them access to that amazing information, and they can use like O'Brien gift and in the code box or whatever, and watch that documentary. It's absolutely amazing. I'm so thrilled with the way it was put together. I'm so thrilled with how dimensional it is and all that it covers, all that it uncovers, all that it reveals, all that it empowers. It is amazing. And aside from that, just I hope people will continue to wake each other up with patience and love and compassion and understanding. There's no way we can lose. It's just time for us to take a stand and stop the darkness.
You are such a force behind why I do what I do in this world, and I just love you. And thank you so much for this time together.
That's absolutely wonderful. As everybody wakes up to reclaim their free thought and everything, we need to arm ourselves with truth, because truth really does make us free.
I need to say, let you go, because I just adore you. And that's why your necklace got hooked to my sweater, because, I just have nothing but hugs and love. And I look forward to just continuing on. And thank you so much, Cathy, for seeing me and my intent and wanting to hang out with me. And, I know I carry some weird stuff being connected to the Eisenhower family, but, that could be another conversation as far as what you might have gleaned from that. But it was sort of part of the mission to bring a lot of disclosure to what was not disclosed in that administration, which is kind of why. But yeah, so much more to come.
Yes.
And you're just an angel. I love you. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Please share this with your friends and family, and let's all work together. And there's no judgment. There's nothing but forgiveness. Let's drop the programmings and not hold each other to them. Let's look beyond that and connect to each other on a heart and soul level. We all deserve that. And, the indoctrination is really heavy. Let's cut each other slack, Yeah.
Yep, and communicate eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul. Take off those masks. Everybody just needs to start living their love again, live their life.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I love you guys. See you soon. Mwah.